On the unforgiving streets of Araba Avenue in Compton, California, within a 10-block stretch from Anderson Elementary School to East Oris Street, life doesn't whisper, it screams. This is the heart of the pocket hood Compton Crips territory, a neighborhood etched in infamy, allegedly the same set tied to the retaliatory killing of Orlando Anderson, the man widely believed to have ended Tupac Shakur's life. Here, survival isn't granted, it's earned. And from this bundle of chaos, loss and bloodshed rose DeMar DeRozan, a boy born into a war zone, forced to walk a tightrope between hope and the haunting pull of the gang culture. He wasn't supposed to make it out. Most don't, but he did. Not unscathed, but unbroken. Through trauma that would shatter most, through heartbreak that doesn't make the headlines, DeMar DeRozan clawed his way from the alleyways riddled with gunfire to the shining hardwood of the NBA, from a gang-affiliated Crip to a six-time All-Star, and now one of the league's top 30 all-time scorers, sitting at number 26 with 25,246 points as of this recording. The story isn't about basketball, it's about pain, perseverance, and purpose. This is not just a sports narrative, it's a soul story of a boy who cried silently behind locked doors, who buried loved ones too early, who battled demons in his own mind while the world cheered from the stands. And now we take you back, not to the stats, not to the fame, but to where it all began, in the noise, in the darkness, in Compton. It's just days after New Year's Day 2008. The chill of the Compton evening hung in the air, quiet but heavy, like something was waiting to break. DeMar DeRozan, a high school senior with NBA dreams, stood on the corner of the 5700 block of South Turret Avenue. He wasn't alone, but he felt distant, watchful, waiting. His best friend Davian Charles was just a few blocks away, laughing, locked into a dice game with a few members of the pocket hood Compton Crips, the kind of scene you see 100 times in a neighborhood like this. Loud talk, rolling dice, quick money, and the unspoken edge that never goes away. Then, at 6:23 p.m., a dark-colored vehicle would drive past the young man, roll down the vehicle, and fire a barrage of shots towards Davian Charles, striking him several times before fleeing the scene. The shooting was confirmed as gang-related, said Detective Charles Morals of the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau. Another young black man was caught in the crossfire, wounded and rushed to the hospital, but would eventually recover. As for Davian Charles, he wouldn't be so lucky. His injuries were too severe and he would succumb to his injuries. In a cold, sterile hospital room, DeMar DeRozan lost his best friend. Just like that, another life stolen, another funeral to plan, another casket to stare at in disbelief. Compton didn't pause, it never does. The streets kept moving fast, loud and ruthless. No space for breath and no regard for the priceless weight of human life. DeMar was only a teenager, but now he had to carry something heavier than grief, survivor's guilt. One more name gone, one more soul that wouldn't make it out. Years later, the world would come to know his name. When the arenas filled up with fans and cameras followed his every move, DeMar finally opened up about the pain buried beneath his calm demeanor.
Everything started to come, and like the first day, I was just going crazy. And I think it was Friday night. I didn't go out. I was supposed to go out, and I just didn't have nothing in me, bro. I felt so exhausted mentally, emotionally, and I just laid there. I didn't tell nobody I wasn't going out. I wasn't this. Locked the door, and I laid in the room by myself. And in the middle of the night, I tweeted what I tweeted.
The pain buried beneath his calm demeanor. In his autobiography, he wrote, "The truth was, I couldn't stand the thought of seeing Davian in that casket. I just didn't want it to be real. Why would they care about you?" I had the phrase tattooed on my right forearm. Every time I'd raise my shooting hand, it would show. I can read it. It's not just ink. It's a scar, a silent prayer, a reminder that every shot I take is for someone who never got the chance. Before DeMar DeRozan became the mid-range assassin we all know and love, he had to first make it out of the rough and rugged streets of Compton. His mother, Diane DeRozan, had a rule, a mantra she would recite to her son: whatever you do when you walk out that front door better be something that lets you walk back through it.
As soon as you walk out this door, it was a rule for my mom. It's like, whatever you do when you walk out this door, make sure you walk back through this door. Knowing the pressures of outside growing up in Compton was an issue. I walked to school every day. You know what I mean? I went to school with Crips, Bloods. I went to school with every single thing. And it wasn't a day that went by to where you felt all right, today was a good day. It was always walking back in the house all right, cool. Gotta do the same shit tomorrow.
On ESPN's Virtue of DeMar DeRozan, Diane opened up about the struggle she and her husband faced just to bring DeMar into the world. After years of heartbreak and failed attempts, she found herself pregnant. DeMar would come to be known in the family as the blessed one. Maybe that's why his parents were so strict, so relentless in shielding him from the gang-ridden streets that surrounded their home. But no matter how tightly they tried to protect him, the pull of Compton's harsh reality always found a way in. When asked about his upbringing and his ties to the pocket-hole Compton Crips, DeMar didn't sugarcoat it. That was my identity, the result of birth and geography. It came before religion. It came before race. It's the first thing you felt accepted by. It's all I knew. I look back on it now and it makes no sense. But growing up, it made perfect sense. At just the age of 5, DeMar attended his first funeral. His uncle Kevin, who had been shot in the chest by a member of the rival blood gang. Diana remembers her brother as a good guy who went to work every single day. But DeMar remembers him differently. One of the biggest Crips in Compton. It was like a parade, the kind of funeral you throw for someone famous. I've been to so many funerals in the hood, I lost count, Diane said. But it was the first time DeMar really understood what death meant. And sadly, he got used to it. Too used to it. Behind every preacher's sermon, beneath every grief-stricken cry, there was something more, a quiet expectation of more death, more violence. You remember that feeling, DeMar said. It's kind of sickening. He's seen drive-bys at funerals. He's seen people die at funerals. You carry that hatred and frustration with you.
Early on, 5, 6 years old, I lost my uncle. I lost my best friend to murder. I haven't even had a developed mental yet, and I'm comprehending the worst thing possible that a kid could go through.
That's when his father, Frank DeRozan, stepped in with a different kind of vision. Frank was the first African-American to play varsity sports at Vidalia High School in Louisiana. He once dreamt of going pro in football, but life had other plans. He ended up working as a videographer for the city of Compton, grinding day and night to put food on the table. He poured his relentless work ethic into his son, dragging him to the parks every weekend, teaching him how to shoot, teaching him how to compete, how to survive. But Frank's love was wrapped with fire, and sometimes fire burns. Whenever DeMar was weak, physically, emotionally, or mentally, Frank would find that weakness and press it hard. He'd block his shots, knock him to the floor, and stare him down and say, "You're soft. Cry baby. Your opponents don't care. You ain't sh." DeMar would sometimes lose it, kick the ball, cry, run to his mother. But Diana started to notice something. The madder he got, the better he played. And Frank, he never broke character. Not once. That fire forged something unbreakable, something real. DeMar DeRozan grew up under the weight of his father, whose version of manhood was forged in fire and reinforced through pain. Frank DeRozan believed softness was a threat, vulnerability, a flaw. Love didn't come in hugs or "I'm proud of yous." It came in blocked shots, harsh words, and relentless pressure. In his world, crying wasn't an option. Weakness wasn't allowed. You fell down, you got back up. No talking, no tears. Just grind. It's why Kendrick Lamar's Father Time feels like it could have been written from DeMar's own journal. When Kendrick Lamar raps about daddy issues and the pressure to man up, about how love and discipline got blurred into the same thing, DeMar could have likely felt every bar in his chest. I came from a generation of home invasions. I got daddy issues and that's on me. I was taught to never show emotion. Everything he didn't want was everything I was. Like Kendrick, DeMar was shaped by a man who saw emotion as a crack in the armor. And that blueprint, that rigid, unyielding mold of masculinity, didn't just raise him, it hardened him. It taught him to perform in strength, even when he was breaking inside. And long after the games were won, the jerseys were hung up, the lights were dimmed, that voice in his head still whispered, "You soft, man up, don't fold, don't feel."
My dad was always into sports. You know, he had me playing everything. Shit, every weekend he'd take me to the park, do something. I gotta give credit to Pops for sure.
And despite his father's tireless efforts to keep him away from the gang-ridden streets of Compton, the harsh realities of life in the city didn't spare DeMar DeRozan. Violence wasn't something he watched on TV. It unfolded in real time, right in front of him. Every time he got close to someone, it felt like life found a way to take them away. Uncles, friends, classmates. One day they'd be there, the next, the desk at school would sit empty, silent and untouched. No explanations, just absence. The kind you could feel in your chest. Gunshots became background noise, sirens, a nightly soundtrack, and funerals, too many to count. Death wasn't a distant threat, it was a daily possibility. Eventually, DeMar grew numb to it. He knew every time he stepped out that door, he might not return. His mother Diane once put it simply, "You're here today and maybe gone tomorrow. You have to make the best out of it." And so he did, but reality had a way of creeping in. His father couldn't always be there to shield him, and eventually, like the many young men in his neighborhood, DeMar found himself drawn into the world he tried so hard to avoid. He began affiliating with the pocket hood Compton Crips more out of survival than choice.
You
knew what to look out for, you knew what to expect, you knew where to go, where not to go, what this street was, what this street wasn't. So the caution and the survival tactics that you needed to have. It was crazy. Like, I was straight Crip.
And when it came time to choose a high school, he didn't follow footsteps of who had walked clearer paths. Like NBA star Tayshaun Prince, he stayed close to home, close to his roots, close to the people he grew up with, and enrolled at Compton High. It was there in the heart of the storm that he bloomed. With his father in the stands, never missing a single game, DeRozan channeled his pain, the loss, the weight of his environment into purpose. He became one of the most electrifying young talents in the country. By the time he graduated, he wasn't just another kid from Compton. He was a top national recruit, ranked number 3 in the nation by Rivals.com and number 6 by Scout.com. And his senior year, he was unstoppable. He averaged 29.2 points and 7.9 rebounds a game, leading Compton High to a 26-6 record, back-to-back Moore League titles, and a deep playoff run. For his brilliance, he was named Moore League MVP, honored on the California All-State team, and chosen for the prestigious 2008 McDonald's All-American roster. He didn't only participate in the slam dunk contest that year, he won it. But none of the accolades came easy. Every step forward was a step away from the streets. Every point he scored was a defiance of the statistics stacked against him as a child. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about survival, about resilience, and rewriting the story that life had tried to write for him. Despite all the fame and accolades he had earned throughout his high school tenure at Compton High, his name echoing in the gyms across the city, his future started looking brighter than most had dared to dream. Everything nearly changed. Debo was walking home from practice, tired and drenched in sweat, when 2 rival gang members stepped out of the shadows of a narrow alley. Guns were drawn, eyes cold. They didn't ask questions, they didn't need a reason. But something shifted. Recognition flickered across their faces. Debo, the baller, the kid with the golden shot, the one everyone said was gonna make it out. They lowered their weapons, nodded, and walked away. It was the Hooper's Pass, an unspoken code in the inner city where rival gang members might wage war over blocks, but never to touch the ones chasing a dream bigger than the streets. To harm a hoop was to break a sacred rule, because if one of them made it out, maybe hope could follow. It was like having white privilege in Compton, a rare, invincible shield, born not of skin, but of promise. And in that moment, Debo realized his talent didn't just offer him a future, it might have just saved his life. One Sunday afternoon, DeMar and his father Frank were driving out to the valley to visit DeMar's older half-brother, Jermaine, something they'd done multiple times before. But this drive, Frank kept swerving to the right, struggling to keep the car steady. He brushed it off with a joke, pretending everything was fine. The rumble strips under the tires told DeMar otherwise. When they finally arrived at Jermaine's house, Frank was still putting on a brave face, but DeMar noticed something chilling. Frank couldn't even pick up a domino with his left hand. The next day, just as school let out, DeMar's mother Diane picked him up and drove him straight to the hospital. There, the doctor delivered devastating news. Frank had suffered a stroke. When DeMar and Diane walked into the hospital room, they found Frank, the man who had always preached, "Men don't cry." His tough exterior cracked wide open as he broke down in front of his son. "I can't die," Frank sobbed. "I can't die until I see you make it." Around that same time, life threw another crucial blow at DeMar DeRozan. His mother Diane was diagnosed with lupus, a painful autoimmune disease where the body attacks itself. Suddenly, neither DeMar's parents were in good health, and with DeMar already dunking on grown men before he was even grown himself, it was clear he had no choice. He had to make it to the NBA. People ask what I would have done if it wasn't for basketball. DeMar says now, "I can never give a good answer because honestly, I had no other option." The voice of the Hawk, Frank's booming and no-nonsense presence, became a ruthless soundtrack in DeMar's youth, echoing across the empty gyms. "What the hell are you doing? Miss a free throw? You owe me 5. How you gonna let them do that to you?" The better of that got DeMar winning championships, becoming a McDonald's All-American. And the harder, every mistake mattered, every shot missed was magnified. It wasn't about basketball. Frank knew the stakes were bigger than wins and losses. He had seen too many lives go wrong, too many dreams vanish in Compton. Failure just wasn't failure here. It was danger. It was life and death. And then came the New Year's Eve that would change everything. It's just days after New Year's Day 2008. The chill of the Compton evening hung in the air, quiet but heavy, like something was waiting to break. DeMar DeRozan, a high school senior with NBA dreams, stood on the corner of the 5700 block of South Turret Avenue. He wasn't alone, but he felt distant, watchful, waiting. his best friend Davion Charles was just a few blocks away, laughing, locked into a dice game with a few members of the pocket hood Compton Crips, the kind of scene you see 100 times in a neighborhood like this. Loud talk, rolling dice, quick money, and the unspoken edge that never goes away. Then, at 6:23 p.m., a dark-colored vehicle would drive past the young man, roll down the vehicle, and fire a barrage of shots towards Davion Charles, striking him several times before fleeing the scene. The shooting was confirmed as gang-related, said Detective Charles Morals of the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau. Another young black man was caught in the crossfire, wounded and rushed to the hospital, but would eventually recover. As for Davion Charles, he wouldn't be so lucky. His injuries were too severe and he would succumb to his injuries. In a cold, sterile hospital room, DeMar DeRozan lost his best friend. Just like that, another life stolen, another funeral to plan, another casket to stare at in disbelief. Compton didn't pause, it never does. The streets kept moving fast, loud and ruthless. No space for breath and no regard for the priceless weight of human life. DeMar was only a teenager, but now he had to carry something heavier than grief. Survivor's guilt. One more name gone, one more soul that wouldn't make it out. Years later, the world would come to know his name. When the arenas filled up with fans and cameras followed his every move, DeMar finally opened up about the pain buried beneath his calm demeanor.
Early on, 5, 6 years old, I lost my uncle. I lost my best friend to murder. I haven't even had a developed mental yet, and I'm comprehending the worst thing possible that a kid could go through.
The pain buried beneath his calm demeanor. In his autobiography, he wrote, "The truth was, I couldn't stand the thought of seeing Davion in that casket. I just didn't want it to be real. Why would they care about you?" I had the phrase tattooed on my right forearm. Every time I'd raise my shooting hand, it would show. I can read it. It's not just ink. It's a scar, a silent prayer, a reminder that every shot I take is for someone who never got the chance. At just 17 years old, DeMar DeRozan had committed to USC, signing his letter of intent in November 2007. He chose the Trojans, not the blue blood programs like North Carolina and Arizona State. For DeMar, it wasn't just about basketball. It was about escape. Escape from Compton, escape from grief, escape from the reality where each and every day felt like a coin toss between hope and heartbreak. Behind his quiet demeanor and highlight reels, DeMar DeRozan was carrying an unbearable weight. He had just lost his best friend Davion Charles, a brother in everything but blood, and while still nursing that open wound, he had to keep playing. He had to the blue blood programs like North Carolina and Arizona State. For DeMar, it wasn't just about basketball. It was about escape. Escape from Compton, escape from grief, escape from the reality where each and every day felt like a coin toss between hope and heartbreak. Behind his quiet demeanor and highlight reels, DeMar DeRozan was carrying an unbearable weight. He had just lost his best friend Davion Charles, a brother in everything but blood, and while still nursing that open wound, he had to keep playing. He had to keep performing. NBA scouts weren't going to pause and consider his pain. Sympathy wouldn't punch his ticket to the league. If he wanted to make it, to change his family's life, he had to lock in, no matter how much it hurt. He later told ESPN about the sickness in his stomach that never went away, the kind that gnaws at you from the inside. He couldn't even bring himself to attend Davion's funeral. The pain was too real, too raw, but he buried it because dreams don't wait. Not when time with your father is slipping away, not when survival depends on success. College should have felt like a fresh start, but 20 minutes away from Compton felt like a million miles away. At USC, he sat in classrooms filled with children who had laptops, luxury cars, and lives that seemed untouched by the kind of chaos he grew up in. Some of them were from LA too, but not his LA. They didn't know the sound of sirens at night or the feeling of waking up through the night with one eye over your shoulder. I felt like I couldn't communicate, he recalled. It was like you had your life and I had mine. But on the court, inside the Gallon Center, he found peace. With over 10,000 fans in the stands and the band blaring, it was one place loud enough to drown out the sound of his father's weakening voice. The one that had always pushed him, the one that had always believed. DeMar made that freshman year count, just like Frank, his father, wanted. In March, under the bright lights of the Staples Center, he outplayed James Harden for the Pac-10 title. It was a statement, not just to the scouts, but to himself. And a few months later, he was drafted 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors. And the rest, well, the rest is history.